Welcome to another live stream, my friends. Bitcoin has seen a nice little bounce over the last couple of days, which is lovely to see, but can the bulls keep up this momentum? We need to be careful as we are currently starting to test some potential resistance here. But there's a couple bullish signs I wouldn't mind seeing in the next couple of days as well. Just for now, we need to be a little bit cautious, you guys. And as I was talking about, I believe it was in my last stream, or I was definitely mentioning it in my Telegram, you guys, that as far as this micro 4-hour structure goes, and by micro, I mean this whole little downswing. So just the current downswing that we're in on the 4-hour, we have this would have been our last low and lower low on, again, it is micro analyzing, but as far as just the micro structure on this downtrend, that would be our last two lows, which means this is our confirmed lower high on the trend, sitting right around 111.6 thousand US dollars. And as well, so from that level, we also have a sell signal on the MDX Trendmaster on the 4-hour here as a little bit of confluence. And guys, it's actually a lower sell signal as well. So I do give a little additional credit to that. That's a strong point of confluence, in my opinion. I love using that indicator and just kind of to help point out which way the trend is going. I mean, it's obvious that here we have a downtrend, obviously. But when you have an indicator backing that up and just helping confirm pivot points and things like that, it can go a long ways. So I take that lower sell signal serious. And the fact that we are basically trading right below the resistance of that indicator right now. And notice as well, if I pull a Fibonacci, just a classic Stuber fib from that lower high structure, that confirmed lower high, we basically got right up to that level, basically filled this with a wick right to the 886. And then after that, basically coming up to the 786. And that's where we're currently struggling with resistance here. So like I said, it's not that we can't break this. We can absolutely, because I mean, we had a nice little down push, right? We came very low into this larger range, and seeing a nice little bounce like that isn't all too unexpected, right? It's just that now we just need to be cautious because we're at resistance again, basically, you guys. I would love to see this resistance break. I know I've mentioned many times, I still see reasons why we could go significantly higher, right? There is a lot of liquidations. Here, let me just pull it up here. High leverage liquidations all the way up back at all-time highs. So it's still very possible. I don't know how probable it is at this point, but it's at least possible that we could go back up and retest all-time highs just because of the fact that there's liquidity there. That being said, since we keep getting these little bounces, we are also building liquidity to the downside as well. So either way, the market maker can push either direction and basically grab some liquidity if they want. So that is basically showing that, you know, we are still in the middle of a very large range. Both the lower side and the higher side are very possible scenarios. But at this point, on this current downtrend that we have, just on this recent swing here, just remember we are technically at resistance right now. Another thing I've been pointing out for a while, guys, actually a few weeks, is basically this order block on the weekly, where we ended up finding our support, getting our new highest candle body close on the weekly ever. We ended up losing that order block, and currently we're still trying to basically flip that support into resistance. So we are still holding support of the very bottom of the range, so not all hope is lost yet. But the fact that we're flipping this block here from support into resistance is a fairly big deal, in my opinion, especially the fact that it's on the weekly time frame. It's lining up with that 4-year cycle, a typical 4-year cycle. Not saying this has to play out the same, obviously. Fractal patterns break all the time. It's just that at this point, it's just a little bit alarming that the 4-year cycle happens to line up where we got a fairly serious break in structure on the weekly time frame. So I just basically don't want to be blindsided by FOMO, you guys. I would love to see us go absolutely parabolic, but also understand that the last couple of times that we've got breakouts to the upside, they've just been they've been fake outs very quickly, right? Turning into those swing fail setups. So even at this point, I mean, don't get me wrong, if we end up going all the way to the upside, all the way to the top of the range, yeah, you know what, the long position that I'm in from the lows, that will act as my swing. And yeah, there would be opportunities for scalps to the long side on the way up and that sort of a thing, hoping to catch some more running positions. That would be absolutely great. But once again, when we get up to those resistance levels, that's where it's time to be careful again, right? And that's basically starting around 120,000. It's actually about 120.8 thousand. But basically anywhere from 120 to 130,000, that is fair game for a very large rejection. And obviously that's a very large range. It's just that once we get up to those levels, it's not saying that, hey, short right now, go all in on a short at 120K, right? Nothing like that. But looking for those confluences on lower time frames as you're trading into those macro time frame resistance pockets. That's exactly why in my Telegram we got into a short position here, you guys, at right at about 125.2 thousand, and a lot of you guys will remember that. And I actually, here is a screenshot of that when I was mentioning it in the Telegram, and absolutely played out beautifully. So it was actually 2 or 3 days before that big liquidation event that I got into a short position. We were ready for that just based on macro structure and, you know, not trying to play the tweets kind of a thing. So if that is something that interests you and you are more interested in trading based on the charts, you want to see more examples of my favorite trading strategies, some of my trade setup ideas, more examples, how I pull Fibonacci's, how I look at market structure, just my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the description link down below, and you can get in there. And as well, guys, that would get you signed up with BloFin, no KYC exchange. They are currently giving new members who want to try out my Telegram, basically new members, getting these special deposit and trade volume bonuses. So yeah, if that's something that interests you, because guys, I'm seeing a lot of FUD in the market right now around certain exchanges and freezing accounts and things like that. Just be careful out there. And that's just basically one of the reasons, just according to Grok here, looking up, you know, some of the key points that I look for in an exchange. Basically, I don't want to see that they're trading against me. And I also don't want to see them freezing accounts. And as well, no KYC is a bonus. So that's one reason why I continue trading with BloFin, why I continue being partnered with them, and why I feel safe there, basically. So if that is something that interests you, like I said, special promo going on for new members. And as well, that does get you into my VIP Telegram there. So yeah, that being said, guys, like just zooming in here, looking at this for what it is. Yeah, it looks to me like we're still just fighting with that 786 a little bit. Like I said, with the Trendmaster indicator, we have that resistance just above us. So we could still push a little bit higher on the shorter time frames. I am seeing reasons, like, for example, we're basically getting mixed signals on the Trendmaster right now. So nothing confirming a downtrend at this point, because even the fact that we ended up getting basically a lower buy signal here, which was a sign of weakness, followed by a lower sell signal, but then we get a higher buy signal. So then we just started kind of flip-flopping and we're ranging, which is kind of something that I warned about as well, was just the fact that for the weekend, specifically on Saturdays, we find that volatility shuts off for a day and a half, somewhere in there. And then the volatility kind of kicks back into gear when we're getting closer to that weekly candle close. So sometime tomorrow, I would expect it to pick up. So right now, I'm just kind of expecting the price action to kind of flip-flop a little bit. But like I said, as long as we stay below 111.6K, that is that 4-hour lower high, confirmed lower high on this current downtrend. If we can end up breaking that, even if we saw a pullback, right? If we end up breaking that and then seeing some sort of a pullback like that, that would be quite natural. And that would just be a beautiful Stuber setup from the long side if it happened. Obviously, that doesn't have to happen. It is possible you just get a breakout and just continue staircasing higher. That's absolutely possible. It's just that I generally would want to see some sort of laddered confirmation in that at that point, just because then we would actually have some sort of confirmed structure with a tighter invalidation, basically. But if we just basically break this structure and then drop back into this range, well, at that point, invalidation is still way at the bottom of the range for if it's going to be a bullish continuation. So at that point, I would be looking for some sort of a pullback. So just something to watch for if we do end up pumping into the weekend here. But yeah, I don't really want to be longing right into resistance right now, basically. So like I said, I do still have a chunk of my position open from 104,787. That's just a beautiful long position that I took. Well, at this point, I think it was a couple weeks ago, but that was based off the same type of thing, right? Just another fib, taking a trade off the 786, basically. Nice and controlled. Aster, same thing, you guys. In that swing fail pocket, I know in the Telegram I had mentioned this as well. Where is that screenshot? Actually, I think this was the one previous. I've actually played this pocket twice already. So I've taken a couple of nice little longs and so far just turning into scalps. But these are the kind of positions that I'm really hoping that a chunk of it turns into a runner. So I've already paid myself on about a third of this position, just because Aster is quite volatile and it is possible that we just end up dropping and whatever. I want to make sure I pay myself along the way, just because this is a nice position already. But yeah, definitely protecting myself and just hoping that this does turn into a runner, because if we do end up testing the top of this range again, this is basically what I was talking about when I took my trade position, that I was looking at it basically straight up as a risk reward type of a setup, right? The fact that this is where you get those real large rewards versus very tight stops when you can get into these type of setups. And it's just because it's a very specific Fibonacci strategy I look for, right? Actually, my average entry would have ended up lower because I had more laddered entries that unfortunately never quite filled. But yeah, just basically looking at a tight risk reward invalidation type of setup on something like that. And I actually mentioned that in a stream last week, I believe, when we were starting to look at this level. So very nice to see that. Honestly, guys, I feel like, yes, this market is getting the best of a lot of people. It's very volatile. It's very choppy. I understand that it can be frustrating especially if you have a strong bias one way or the other. But the price action hasn't really been doing anything crazy, right? As far as, when you start setting higher highs, then you get that choppy price action because you pull back, and not everybody kind of wants breakouts to happen. But generally what happens is you break structure, you have a pullback, or a retest, whatever, and then continue the trend, right? And a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around that. And that's why it's so important to have a good understanding of basic market structure, guys. Honestly, as far as I say it all the time, I trade charts, not tweets, but that is something that goes so far, is just a very basic understanding of the higher highs, higher lows, like I've been talking about. It goes so much further than trying to pay attention to announcements and meetings and tweets and headlines and all that sort of stuff. It's so much easier to misanalyze the entire global economy versus a couple of very basic structure points, right? But unfortunately, structure can be misunderstood, and just having a good understanding of that can go a long ways. And like I said, guys, if you're interested in how I look at market structure and that sort of thing, you want to see more examples in real time, post, present, ahead of time, all of it. If you want to see more examples how I pull those fibs and how I look at market structure, get in there. But I hope you guys are crushing it out there. Let me know in the chat, how are you all feeling about the market? Are you extremely bullish? Are you extremely bearish? And are you happy or depressed about that? Like, the thing is, I'm happy to go either way from here. I am favoring my bearish bias a little bit recently, just because after that liquidation event, I mean, we broke very serious structure, and any bounce in between here, we're still just a part of a very large range that now is favoring bearish structure, basically. So favoring the bearish side for now. but that doesn't mean that we can't bounce. But as long as we stay volatile as a trader, I'm happy. I don't get me wrong. I would love to see the market go parabolic, just like the next guy. Parabolas are so fun to trade, so easy to trade. But as long as it's volatile either direction, I mean, I don't really care, to be honest. Catch up in the chat here a little bit. Love to see you guys here, by the way. Love to see so many returning guests. Sorry, getting tongue tied here. Love to see that you guys keep coming back. Love to see that there's also some new people in there. So welcome if you are new here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new here. Doing these live streams, I mean, Saturdays are usually quite slow, but I haven't been around to do a stream for the last couple days, so I really wanted to get something out there today. But so not too exciting for Saturdays, but in general, kind of providing my thoughts on these live streams basically every day at this point, almost daily. And if you do appreciate these live streams, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Goes a long way for such a new channel, the new algorithms, all that sort of stuff. And seriously appreciate you guys being here with me. How likely are we to go back up above 120K? I don't know how likely it is, because honestly, I don't like that this lower sell signal came on when the MDX Trendmaster indicator on the 4-hour, like I was warning about. Not saying it can't be broken. You know, we start getting above 113K and we'll probably see this flip into a higher buy signal, which would favor some bullish momentum there. But at this point, that's an early weakness sign to me, because I was already kind of leaning bearish, just because, like I said, with this big structure breakdown here from our liquidation event, that really did damage to the chart, and it came right on schedule of that 4-year cycle. So I'm happy to see that break. But at this point, like I said, there is liquidity to both sides, right? There is liquidation levels up above 120K. So I don't think it's off the table. It's just that I really don't like that we're seeing momentum favoring the bearish side of things so aggressively at this point, because I was really hoping that we would have ended up pushing up towards 120K, at least testing up to my macro 786, 886 fib pocket, right? If I pull a bearish fib, something like this, yeah, my resistance basically starts around 120.9K, right? So I was really hoping that we would have ended up shooting all the way up towards that. It's just that we're seeing weakness come in a little bit early. So I don't know how likely it is, honestly. But I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm not really entering a swing position right now, hoping for that. If I end up catching a scalp long and it turns into a runner, fantastic. But other than that, I still just have 40% of this position from back here. I felt like that was the safe entry as far as looking for a swing. And that's why I still have a chunk of it running. That's why it hasn't got stopped out, right? I just have it at break even because I didn't want to get stopped out on some sort of a pullback like this, just because I don't want to try and have to find a new long position, because I would love to let this run. And if we end up hitting these levels up here, I will absolutely be taking more profits. But other than that, I hope it happens, but I just don't know if it will. I don't think it's off the table. Like I said, if I was a market maker and I wanted to grab that high leverage, those high leverage liquidations, I mean, you can see those pockets all the way up back towards 126K basically. So it's very possible. Red Panda, still have your short since 124K. Nice. Suppose I still have that one. You know, I accidentally closed the one that I had from 125.2K. That's okay. It was a great position. And I mean, I caught a few shorts, right? You'll remember probably that when I was short from here, I caught some more shorts down here. Played this trend very aggressively, actually. And yeah, unfortunately, I closed that one that would have been a trophy, especially if it would have ended up being the cycle ender. Ooh, that was a perfect call at the top there. But no, so unfortunately, I don't have that open. I am building a new short in this resistance here. Basically, whenever we get to potential resistance levels, I'll start building little shorts. So laddering into something here since we just kind of tested my 786. So I'm still interested in playing the downside, but not opposed to the upside either, right? That's why I find it very nice to be able to hedge in this market and stuff like that, right? So at this point, I'm more so looking at the things from a bearish perspective. However, I still have this that chunk of my long position running as a hedge more so at this point, just so it can keep running if it needs to. But yeah, it's very it makes things a lot easier, and I'm able to keep a much more level head when I start hedging against this market, right? Same reason why basically everybody went full panic mode when we got this rejection here. But I was explaining on these streams and in the Telegram basically that why I was starting to hedge shorts into this level, because just in case it turned into a massive rejection zone. And then everyone said it was unpredictable, but it was just that a typical swing fail setup, right? We already got one back here, and then we just got another one from that level. So now, if we end up seeing the same thing, I would very much so be looking for some sort of short positions in this red box if we get there. Even if I'm bullish at the time, I will be taking shorts up there as a hedge, if nothing else, just like I was doing back here. What chance do I give seeing all-time high this year? Honestly, not great, unless, like I said, maybe we just get a new all-time high, like test this red box and then end up getting rejected. And you know what? I could be totally wrong about this, you guys. And if we just end up breaking through my invalidation zone and start staircasing higher, at that point, I'll be longing pullbacks until there's some sort of a structure break again, and then I'll start getting bearish again. And then if there's some sort of a bullish break like this, then I'll be bullish again, right? It all depends what the chart structure does. But yeah, basically, even if we climb from here, I have my concerns. Basically, Bitcoin needs to break all-time highs if it wants to invalidate this as its bearish pivot point. That's all there is to it, just because of how the structure formed. The fact that we dropped this level was very bad for the trend, in my opinion. If we end up grabbing that liquidation, those liquidations down around 98,000, then we have another lower low on the trend. And that would, at that point, it starts to look more and more like a bear market, you guys. Again, too early to say for sure, but just something to watch for. But yeah, guys, let's see here. What's Bitcoin doing? Yeah, on the 5-minute, like I could see it climbing into this resistance a little bit higher. But like I said, to break some actual serious resistance, we need Bitcoin to break above 111.6K basically. After that, a pullback would still be possible, but at least there would be some sort of a broken trend on the 4-hour. So that would be a great bullish signal, in my opinion. Not necessarily saying to, well, at that point, if that breaks, that means it's time to long, right? That means it's time to long right now. That's not necessarily the case. A bullish signal means that, hey, it's time to start looking for long positions, right? That's why I like to pull Fibonacci's to look for those pullbacks. Unfortunately, they don't always happen, but those are the kinds of setups that I'm generally looking forward to trading. So for those of you who are interested in trading based on charts, you want to see more examples of my favorite strategies, how I pull fibs, how I look at market structure, all that sort of good stuff, you guys, do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code on the screen to get in there, or there's also a link in the description down below. But yeah, just a few examples here of some of the posts that I've been making in the Telegram. And like I said, partners at BloFin are currently giving this special promo to new signups to the group as well. And guys, as well, there is an open Discord where my signals get posted into this Discord as well. However, it is a 3-day delay. It is just a sneak peek into the Telegram. If you want the actual up-to-date posts, then you need to be in the Telegram by scanning the QR code. So with that, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So thank you guys so much for being here with me once again. If you do appreciate these live streams, my level-headed approach and trying to be the voice of reason in these crazy markets, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you so much once again. Peace.